What is going on, you guys? This is All Day One on the PS4, and I'm going to be giving you another Division 2 video. And with this video I'm going to be giving you is going to be a build video for PvE content, and this is going to be a nice damage build video. Now, you're not going to be doing an absurd amount of damage. It's not like a one-shot build type of thing, but it is going to allow you to stay alive as well as being able to put out a decent amount of damage. Now, you can also technically use this also for PvP, but it's not necessarily the best build to use because you need to get armor on kill and whatnot, but you are still going to have a high amount of armor. But the thing is, in conflict you are playing like a little more balanced, so your stats are going to be reduced. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the specialists and which ones you're going to be using, as well as the abilities and gear and weapons, and as well as the talents. So, specializations. So when you hit level 30 and you get to World Tier 1, you unlock these specialists. So you have the Demolitionist, Survivalist, and Sharpshooter. So the best option here out of all three of these is going to be the Sharpshooter, but for me I'm using Survivalist at the moment because I'm just ranking up, trying to get it to 160. But with the Sharpshooter, you're going to want to use this because it's going to allow you to get these passives, and these passives are going to be amazing for DPS users. So Breath Control Tier 3 allows you to have an increase in stability, and you're aiming at enemies a lot faster. The faster reacquisitions of targets, I guess that's what it's called or pronounced. And then Deft Hands allows you to get a lot faster reload speeds. You definitely want to get this too, because the faster reload speed is, the less time you're not shooting at the enemy. And then the next one is going to be on the one in the head. So one in the head allows you to get even more damage to headshots, and it's basically going to add up to 25% damage to headshots. The next one, the Tactician, is actually pretty cool. It just basically pulses the enemies or targets them so you can see them wherever they're at. Obviously, you don't need to worry about this though because you're not going to be using that. And then you're going to be using Sharpshooter Tactical Link. So you're going to want to get this first because you need it to unlock these three. You don't need it for yourself because it doesn't benefit you. But you're going to want to use My Home is My Castle because you'll get more armor while you're in cover, and you're definitely going to be wanting to be in cover. And then you're definitely going to want to get round after round. So after 20 seconds in cover, you start gathering 5 marksman and 5 rifle ammo every 10 seconds. Now, with this build in particular though, I'm not going to really be benefiting from using a rifle, but you still can use a rifle instead of the AR, because I'm using an AR at the moment. But a rifle is definitely going to be the better option. If you are using a rifle, make sure you do get this as well. Max this out because you'll get 15% more rifle damage. And then also a flashbang is nice so you can stun the enemies so they'll be standing in place. Now with the Survivalist, what is nice about the Survivalist is the fact that you do get an incendiary grenade, which does a nice amount of damage, and then that 15% assault rifle damage as well is really good. And then whenever your group members get 10% more bonus damage to targets with status effects, so you even do more damage as well. And then you're going to want to get crunch time to get a 10% skill cooldown. So the Survivalist is more used for skill builds anyways, not necessarily a DPS build with whatever like weapon damage. But like I said, I'm only using this one because of the 10% or the 15% increased assault rifle, as well as trying to max out the Survivalist first. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the gear. So now for the gear, I'm using an M4 or a Police M4 replica, M700 tactical, and the 93R. The 93R, doesn't matter what sidearm you're using, I'm just using this for the extra power or the extra gear score. Now with the Police M4, I ended up crafting this because I could not get a single Police M4 replica to drop for my life for some reason, and if it did drop, it would have dropped at 450. But you know, a 440 still does a lot of work. What the talent on this though is actually pretty nice. You get nearsighted, you get an increase in 35% of stability at the cost of 20% critical strike range and 20% optimal range. Now that 20% critical strike range does not mean you're losing crit chance, crit damage, or anything. You're just unable to do crits anywhere past that 36 meters. So as you can see, the critical strike range is from 10 meters to 36 meters, and anything past that it's not going to happen. Or maybe it's just a lot. It just gets dropped way less and less. But I also do have 20% optimal range as well, or less optimal range. Now for my mods on here though, And the reason why I'm using the Police M4 replica is because it already has a high amount of accuracy built into it and stability with a nice amount of rate of fire. The damage is a little less than some of the others, but the rate of fire, accuracy, and stability makes up for that a lot. So for the scope, I'm using the ACOG scope with the 4 times for the optimal range, but I do lose 5% crit damage. You can also go with the T2 micro red dot sight as well, or the reflex sight. But with the reflex sight, you are going to be losing 15% accuracy. With the T2, you're going to be getting 20% more accuracy, which is definitely going to be useful, but you do lose 10% crit chance. That's why I'm using the optimal range, because I do want to make up for the optimal range that I lost, and at the cost of a small amount of crit damage. Now for the mags, you're going to use that light extended 5.56 mag, so you get that increase in 30 rounds, but you do lose 10% rate of fire, which is fine because you're already at the start. You get 850 rate of fire just by itself by default, and dropping it down to 765 is still really good. Now for the laser pointer, for this part, I'm using a laser pointer, and that gives me crit chance, but at the cost of 10% stability, which is fine because I already have a high amount of stability because of nearsighted, so I'm not worried about it. And then loud vent, or for the barrel, I'm using loud vent break 5.56, and that gives me a 20% increase in optimal range, but I do lose 10% stability. You can also instead go with the damage to elites at the cost of 15% stability, but you know, it's always really nice to have that major increase in optimal range as well. Now for the sniper, I'm using the M700 tactical, and the reason why I'm using a sniper is for long range fights. I'm not going to be worrying too much about long range fights with the Police M4. I'm using the M700. Also, if you're not going to be using the Police M4, I would recommend, if you do use the sharpshooter, to go with the SIG 716 CQB. Definitely one of the best rifles in the game for sure. As long as you've got some really nice talents on it, you'll definitely be doing work with this. Anyways, with the sniper, it has talents for preservation, optimized, and cannon. Preservation is going to be very useful for this because you're going to be at long range, and if you lose armor, all you have to do is just shoot enemies from a long range and you'll get armor back if you get the kills and whatnot, especially if you get a headshot kill. And with the sniper, you're generally going to go for the head anyways because you get a major increase in headshot damage. Optimized, it gives you a 15% weapon handling as well, so your weapon sway is not going to be moving around too much. Cannon, you definitely don't need it. You don't need to worry about that, but it's alright, I guess. But it's only a 10% increase in your throwing distance, but like I said, you don't really need that talent whatsoever. And then for the mods I have on it, it's going to be the default scope, so you get that extra 30% headshot damage, and then I threw on that optimal range with the loss of 10% reload speed, 10% increase in crit chance, and then 10% loss in stability, and then 20% more stability and accuracy gain or loss. So basically you have an increase of 10% stability in total just because I'm losing 10 and getting 20. Anyways, I'm gonna be now going over the ability or the gear. So with the gear, you're gonna want to go with 3 pieces of D&H, so you get that accuracy, crit damage, and crit chance, 2 pieces of Badger Tough, and then 1 piece either of the Gila Guard, or you can go with the, let me see if I can find it, if I even have it. So I guess you can go with the Overlord armaments, because if you're using a rifle, you definitely want to go with that extra 10% rifle damage, or you can go with the, I can't even find it, the one that gives assault damage. I don't remember which one it was, but anyways, I'm using the Gila Guard because of that extra 5% armor and the attributes that it gave me, as well as the talent. So with the mask I'm using, is going to give me the attributes 23% damage to elites and 22% hazard protection. That 23% damage to elites, any damage to elites, is going to help you a lot in PvE, especially tier 4, world tier 4 content, when you're going against harder enemies, especially if you're doing hard or challenge mode missions. You definitely want to have a high amount of damage to elites. And I also have hazard protection. What that basically does is it reduces the amount of damage that fire damage or electric and all that will do to you. I don't know if it increases or if it decreases the duration that it's affected to you, but I know it reduces the amount of damage as well sometimes, or not sometimes, by a bit. Now for the backpack, I have the attributes is going to be health, crit damage, crit chance, and bonus armor. That is very, very, very useful stats. Probably some of the best stats in the game anyways, or I think it's like all the stats honestly. But if you don't have those attributes, the talents to look for is going to be hard hitting. You get 15% more damage to elites. The other one would be harden. You get 10% armor increase. And then another one is going to be, I believe it is called vital. Yeah, so vital, health increased by 20%. So any of those is definitely going to help you out a lot. And if you're using demolitionist, you definitely want to go with extra explosive damage. So that 20% explosive damage is going to help you a lot if you are using a demolitionist, though. If you're not, then don't worry about having destructive. And for the mod I have on it, it came with a utility slot, which is alright. It would have been better if it came with a defensive, but like I said, it's not too bad. But I threw on the 120 skill power with a 2% increased burning duration because that gives me, I have a incendiary grenade, so that extra burn duration is going to help, even if it's a small amount. Now for my chest piece, I have, for the attributes, health, crit damage, and crit chance. Really nice attributes as well, and the talents is 10% armor gain. So other talents you can also go with are things like unbreakable, 25% of max armor is repaired when your armor is depleted, and armor kits used within the next 5 seconds of that are not consumed, which is really cool. Other one is going to be Bloodsucker. Depleting an enemy's armor adds a stack of 20% bonus armor for 20 seconds. Super nice, and yes, it does stack. Even if you have full armor, it doesn't just repair your armor. It can technically repair your armor if you have no armor, but it's really nice. It does help out a lot. And then, because I was actually using this at some points of the game just to test out which one was better, this or this set, but this one has a little bit better stats plus the extra armor. You could technically go with Berserk, but Berserk is going to hurt you a little bit more because you're going to be benefiting more on having more armor. And then another one that is really good is going to be Unstoppable Force. You get 2% more weapon damage for every 10,000 armor that you have. So if you have in total 200,000 damage or 200,000 armor, you're going to be doing what, 20% more, or no, math, 40% more damage in total. That's going to be insane amount of damage because for someone who has a lot of armor. So having Unstoppable Force would be very useful, as well as having attributes that increase crit chance, crit damage, and then having another talent that can possibly give you extra armor or anything like that, or the attribute that gives you extra armor, I suppose. Now for the gloves that I'm using, I am using the Badger Tough. Oh, you know what, I should also probably show you the mods I'm using. So the mods I'm using, it came with utility slot, so 148 skill power, increased kill XP, and then bleed duration. I'm not worried about the bleed duration. Extra XP does help, but that skill power is all I really needed from that. And then for the two other mods, I have defensive protocol stamina, gives me more health, 2219 health, armor regenerate per second, 739, and armor on kill, 729. Very nice for this type of build. And the defensive system I have for resistance, I have 2014 bonus armor, and then instant resistance 11%. Those guys that do the foam on you, you basically get 11% more resistance to that. So it takes just like maybe a second longer for you to actually be ensnared. Now for the gloves I have, it's going to give me health, the 3421 health, marksman rifle damage, and 3061 skill power. I definitely don't need the marksman rifle damage because I'm not using marksman rifles, or I am using a marksman rifle, but I'm not worried about it, and I don't need the skill power. What would have been better is if I could replace those with talents, and the talents you definitely want to go for is going to be hard hitting, or you're going to want to go with obliterate. Depleting an enemy's armor grants 25% more critical damage for 5 seconds. Very awesome. And then the opportunistic is also a great talent, probably one of the best talents in the game in my opinion, because destroying an enemy's weak point or breaking an enemy's armor adds 10% more damage from all sources. So it's not just the weapon that you broke it with, but it can be your secondary weapon, it can be your sidearm, it can be your grenade, it can be your skill power abilities, anything. Opportunistic is definitely a great one to have, and all it requires is you to have a marksman rifle or shotgun in one of your slots, so you don't have to even be using it, it just has to be equipped on you. So I would recommend having that one. So you could technically go with the extra health or crit chance or crit damage, whichever one, as long as it's got one of the attributes or two attributes, and then having opportunistic. We're almost done, you guys, don't worry. The next one is going to be the holster. So the holster is the one I have gave me crit damage, 21.5% crit hit damage, which is a lot of crit damage. I was actually surprised I even got something like this. But that's definitely going to help, or something that gives you crit chance as well, because the more crit chance you have, the more damage output you're doing. But obviously having a high amount of crit damage is going to also affect that. But for the talents, skill duration is not too bad. The capacitive is not bad because you can allow your the abilities, the healing abilities will last a little longer. But I'm not too worried about that. So having hardened for the extra 10% armor, or having the damage to elites would have been a better option in my opinion versus that. And then I ended up getting a utility system mod slot, but with this I had one that had reload speed, so I threw that one on instead. Oh, and you know what, the wyvern set is also a good one to go with. That's the other set, the wyvern set, because it gives you 7% crit damage. Anyways, I'm going off topic. Now for the knee pads, these are going to be very important, very important, because the talent you're looking for, these are the two talents you're looking for: hard hitting and patience. Patience is key for this build because, well, it's not number one, but it is I would highly recommend having this one, because what it does is after being in cover for 3 seconds, armor starts to repair by 5% every second. So no, you won't need to heal yourself. No, you won't need to worry about using a medkit. You just got to stay in cover and make sure you watch out. The attribute it came with is also 4821 bonus armor as well. Very nice. So make sure you do have patience though. You can, for the second talent, you don't necessarily need that 15% damage to elites, but having it is definitely going to help in the damage. But you can also go with 10% more armor. And then the Fenris Group AB gives me 10% more assault rifle damage, which is good for what I'm already using, because I'm using an assault rifle, but I'd rather have the third piece of DNH so I get that 7% increase in crit chance. And now for the abilities. The abilities I am now using is going to be the Fixer Drone and the Reinforcer Chem Launcher. And the reason why I'm using the Fixer Drone is because it will repair my armor, just in case if if I'm taking too much damage, too much more than what my armor can repair itself with, or just too much where my Chem Launcher isn't going to be enough or anything, or my armor on kill isn't just enough. Fixer Drone's can help me with that. Now if you want, you can also technically go with the the Defender Drone. With Defender Drone, it basically makes you immune to damage for like a couple seconds, like 3 seconds in total, but you can use that time to run away and go into cover or whatever. And I found Defender Drone to be very useful too, but Fixer Drone is definitely a very useful one to have as well. But there has been some issues with the drones lately, where not just the drones but turrets as well, where they would just disappear, and then go on a 15-second cooldown. Now for the Reinforcer Chem Launcher, this is also very important because this is going to be key for all builds. In my opinion, for all builds should use a Reinforcer or a Chem Launcher in general because of the quick cooldown it has. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Reinforcer, but for this particular build you're going to want to use the Reinforcer because you're going to want to keep your armor built up. But you're going to be getting, it's going to be a 20-second cooldown, and you're going to be getting health, pretty much all, not health but armor repair all the time. But that is pretty much it with this build video. I know that was a lot that I went over. This is more in depth than any of my other videos that I've done with build videos and stuff for other games. But that's because Division 2's got really nice in-depth stuff in it. But anyways, if this helps you out, go and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more build videos and more videos in general, let me know down in the comment section. I will do my best to be making different builds. And as you can see, I have also other builds set up. So I have a PvE DPS, I have a PvP build, I have an armor build, and a support build, and I'll be making even more later on in the future. But if this helps you out, please let me know what you guys think, and also just give me some suggestions that'll help out. I know this is kind of a long video. I want to make this a lot shorter and cut, just go straight forward with this, but it's just there's so much in depth that I want to go with. Make sure you guys don't miss out on any of the stuff you want to look for. But anyways, that's pretty much it with this video. This is all day 1 on the PS4. Have a good day, good night, and peace.